Hello and welcome back to the Bober Academy Football Podcast as we continue our Building Alignment series. This is the last installment for 2023. I'm your host, Chris Bober. I'm the founder of the Bober Academy, where our mission is to train and develop superior linemen to dominate on the field. I am also a high school coach at Creighton Prep, 8-year NFL veteran, 4 years with the Giants, 4 years with the Chiefs, and I have the distinction of starting a game at every position. So, again, we're continuing our Building Alignment series. We have Dr. Nolan Clausen of Midwest Movement, and today we are going to talk about our necks. And it's so important in football that the neck is just a vital piece. Before we get started, I wanted to remind you that down below, if you're watching this, is the subscribe button on our YouTube page. If you subscribe to our channel and click the notifications bell, that would be very much appreciated. If you're listening to this podcast, please subscribe so you get notifications of new episodes. And anywhere you're seeing this on social media, please retweet, like, comment, thumbs up, whatever they do out there in the social media world. It helps grow our presence. So, Dr. Nolan, once again, thanks for joining us on another edition of Building Alignment.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Of course, Dr. Nolan of their Midwest Movement there in Elkhorn, right by Rick's Meats. A lot of people don't realize we get older in life that, Dr. Nolan was a college football player himself, played tight end down in Wesleyan. And he is a guy that I really rely on for guys that come and see me, but also knowledge, because he's played the sport at a high level. And then, of course, he's taking that experience and he's helping get guys who have, things wrong with them, ailments. He's helping them get back on the field. And so today, as we finish up with this series, Dr. Nolan, we're talking about the neck. So obviously, football players are known for having big necks. And, I'm not as big as I used to be. I've lost about 2.5 inches off my neck. I used to have about a 20-inch neck.
Oh, I saw pictures.
Yeah. It wasn't much of a neck from my shoulders to my ears, but it was very helpful, obviously, all those years of wearing a helmet and playing football. But tell me the neck's function, like with the body, and why it's so important for any sport, any athlete, but then especially as football players.
If you think about it, like, let's go back. It's going to seem weird, but let's go back to when you were a baby, right? Mm-hmm. Your head is about 2/3 of your body, right? Yeah. Like, your head was huge, right? And basically everybody told you had to spend time on your belly to develop those neck muscles to hold up your head, right? What's housed in our head is our brain, right? So the neck is basically the thing that is just lugging around the most precious prize that we have on our bodies, which is our brain. It's what causes us to think differently than any other animal species, like all that stuff. But if you think about it, the neck is what moves when we're looking side to side. It's what moves when we just rotate our shoulders, right? So if I keep my head right here and I rotate my shoulders, it's actually my neck that's doing the movement. And so it has to have a ton of mobility, but it's also got to be really strong in being able to hold up our big noggins. The average human head weighs how much?
12 pounds?
8 pounds.
8 pounds.
Yeah.
Mine's probably about 12.
It's from Jerry Maguire. Haven't you ever heard? Yeah. Really good movie if you guys, young bucks, haven't watched that. Anyways, it is true. Your head average weight is 8 pounds. And so a lot of people's necks are probably really sore right now while we're in camp. That's because we added extra weight that we're just not used to having to lug around. It's also the reason that football players do develop such big necks, is because we're constantly wearing helmets. We're also constantly getting hit in the face and having to hold that pressure, right? So our necks do develop a lot of muscles and they get strong over time.
Nice. And let's talk about the positioning for our neck as we play football, because there are a lot of instances in the game of football. Like when I teach my linemen to come off and run block, I'm not teaching them to lead with their head, but I'm also not teaching them to avoid having their head in contact. When I teach like zone blocking, we strike hat and hands. And what we've talked about in our previous podcast is that when you put your head back, you're actually at a more vulnerable position for executing your blocks and being strong, because you disengage from your diaphragm and you lose all of that strength that you have through the ground with your feet all the way through your big muscles, and then you can't deploy your power with your weapons in your hands. And the helmet, while you're not leading with it, we have a helmet for a reason. We have a face mask for a reason. So knowing that in the game of football, the helmet will be a part of contact. Let's talk about like some best practices for guys as they play football, of the position of your neck and head as you get into contact.
Right. So we just talked about our head weighing 8 pounds. Yes, we want to have our head involved in blocking in football, right? If you try to keep it away from everything, you're going to injure it more or actually have bigger issues. But if you think about it, we don't want to lead with our head though. Like that is just a lot of extra pressure. And it's also, if you think about like, this is like the closed packed position. It is like right there, there's not a whole lot of motion. If we're clear back here and somebody hits us here, there's a lot of range of motion to get snapped back into, right? So I like what you were saying about like with blocking in here. One thing that we can do is like basically tuck our chin. Like let's make
turkey
make
neck.
a double chin. Yeah, make a double chin. We're linemen. We want to make ourselves look bigger. It'll make your neck look bigger. But make that double chin, and then you can use the head as part of our system, right? So it's not that we're looking down, because we don't want to look down. We definitely don't want to do that. But we're just making that double chin. We're bringing the head back in this position so that we can keep it forward. I know that seems kind of crazy. We're not bringing it back to avoid like that. We're bringing it back to close it down.
And it's more of that kind of like that stacking effect that we talked about with like our core and our hips and the whole alignment of power. You want to have it, its strongest position is going to be stacked your neck and your right above your spine, right? All that straight line, that is going to be the strongest you can, and probably the most injury prevention, even though you're taking contact there. If it's stacked, you're going to be able to absorb it and deflect it, rather than whether it's up or down or whatever. If it's in those vulnerable positions, that's where injuries, and especially with head injuries and neck and nerve injuries, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And it's not like we want to be stiff, but we want to create a stiff column throughout our spine so that we can use our weapons, basically. And so, like, just kind of reiterate, when we go back, it's more of a rotation up of the back part of our head. It's kind of like rotating it up just a little bit. So you're exactly right. Like when we're talking about, we want to create that stiffness. We want to be able to be strong when we create the contact. If we're loosey-goosey, we get whipped around a lot.
So even if like so many times, like you're going forward in football, so you have your neck where you're going to have your chin up a little bit, because if I'm coming off the ball, I can't look straight ahead because I'm looking down. But would you say that instead of looking out and up, it's better to be back and up, because then you're stacked? So like linemen come off the ball like on a zone block, right? You don't want to go forward with your head. You want to go forward with your body, even if your head is tilted up a little bit, right?
Yeah, I would say that would be the best position.
And you see tacklers like that too. It's like, how does tell me about how like the neck works with that position in protecting the spine as much as possible?
Basically, like the more we get like out of like that stacked position, basically, we're gonna start closing down on different structures in our spine. We got a lot of nerves that come out of our spine. We got a lot of disc in between there, and like the more that we are out of position, the more stress we put on them when we get blows to the top of the head or to the side and things like that.
And talk about this real quick, because I think this is important for the coaches that are watching it and the players that are watching this, is to talk about how compromised your neck is when you have your head down and you're striking with like the crown of the helmet or the back, because that's my experience has been, that's when injuries happen to necks and to spines. So you see some of the worst case scenarios, guys getting carted off. So many times it's when a guy has his head down. Talk to me about like the physiology of that and why that injures your neck.
So, I mean, we're like basically traumaing ourselves all day long. We see people that are not football players that come into our office all day long that are basically having the issues that you would have if you got hit right here. It's because they're doing this all day long on their phones, out at their computers and things like that. And what is happening actually is what we would like to refer to in most cases is disc pressure. Basically, if we have that jelly donut and we're looking down all the time, we're put pressure on the front part of that jelly. Jelly wants to basically start migrating back, and that pressure will start. It could herniate, where it actually compresses on spinal cord or nerves, and we get issues like going down the arms. So like when we go down like this, it's a lot of compression and stretch of that spinal cord. And that's why you see people that get stingers, like basically just like shooting pains down into the arms or even into the legs, right? And
I've had
a
it.
lot of that has to do with the position of their head.
Well, that's some of the worst pain you got right there. So whether it's chronic from looking at your phone or having your head down all the time, or it's an acute injury with it's a violent blast, the effect is kind of the same. It's just how fast you get there, right?
Right. And I guess I kind of missed this point, but like to reiterate the stress of like how important our neck is, 40% of all extremity cases of the arm, like the shoulder, elbow, wrist, 40% of all of those pain complaints come from the neck. We know that from research. So like 4 out of 10 chances when you have an elbow complaint, it's probably your neck. 4 out of 10 if it's your shoulder, it's probably your neck. And so what we know is like if we don't protect the neck, if we don't do the right things, like it's going to maybe cause some pains in the other areas. And I think the fastest way to do that would be to keep your head down and get blows to the top of your head. Like that's the fastest way to get a neck or a spinal cord injury.
Well, you answered my next question, which is going to be how often does it happen where the extremity injuries or pains or whatever they are result in the neck? I know like probably a lot of times with your lower extremities, it's going to go back to something with your spine and the alignment, because that neck it's protecting our valuable computer in our brain, but also it's the most vulnerable part of our spine, right?
Right.
You know, our spine is protected by our ribs and our gut and our shoulders and our chest, except when it gets to the neck, it's got the smallest amount of protection. So it's probably a pinch point for injuries and stuff. Okay. So whether guys have camp neck, whether they have neck issues or maybe some upper back or extremity issues, what are some of the things that, first and foremost, they can do to prevent those, but also some of the things that if they are getting some of that pain, some of that tingling, some of that whatever, what are some of the issues they can do then after that?
With these, like these are general movements that we have people do. I just want to say, like, if these movements don't help and they actually cause more pain, like you definitely should come in and get evaluated. But in general, we're doing this motion with people as a preventative all the time. We are doing kind of what we were already talking about. We're close packing this position, but we're going here and back as far as we can. But we got to make sure we go back here. And I like to call these our get away from the ugly girl kissing you. So ugly girl is trying to kiss you, get away and go back. It looks like a weird movement. If every football player were doing that today, I think we would have a lot less neck issues and maybe even arm complaints and things like that. It's also
so you're saying that the old linemen shouldn't be kissing ugly girls; they should be pulling back, and they'd be better football players.
Yeah,
and
they probably shouldn't be kissing the other opponents either. So they should not get their head craned out and keep it back. So
nice. Okay, so that's one of them. What else do you recommend for those guys? Preventative and after soreness or
yep. So that's one of the best ones. Then like I'm always talking about shoulder blade health. Basically, these trap muscles, they get used and abused quite a bit. That's why they're so tight. Like you can walk up to any person you could probably pinch them and it would send shooting pain, or they freak out and try to get away from it. So we want that. We know these muscles help carry some support of the neck. So I'm always asking people in the weight room to do banded face pulls. Or ropes on the cable machine and pulling towards our face, trying to get our shoulder blades to start just getting some more strength so that they can pick up some of the slack that our neck may be missing.
And I remember you told me this last time because I was simulating this and I stuck my neck out. But when just like when we're doing bench and we want to set our core right or something like that, we want to, when we're lifting, right, we want to set our neck right and not be like hunched over and pulling stuff. We want to be locked in, like you said, that stacked position, and then do our exercises too, right?
Correct. Yeah. A lot of the lifting injuries that we see, like we see a lot of people that come in and I was like, I was benching and my neck hurt. Well, when they're benching, they're just like this, like pushing, or they're like clear back into here, like trying to lift weights. So when we lift, same thing, ugly girl kissing you, try to get that neck back, try to get as much of it flat on the bench or things like that, but try to keep your ears over your shoulders. That's going to be one of the best things that you can do in just positioning right while we're training.
Nice. So as you kind of get to time here, those are some great exercises we talked about for you linemen out there. Remember, don't kiss the ugly girls, right? And if you walk around like this and have a double chin, you probably won't have to worry about it because no one will want to kiss you. But get your double chin there, keep your head stacked. And of course, this is important every day for all day long. Kids are going to start school next week. And some of them started this week, and they're going to be sitting there like this all day, right? So it's important before you go out to practice to maybe do some of these exercises, or while you're at school or while you're at the office, if you're watching this as an adult, try to practice some of these things rather than just thinking I can just get away with it. Like I said, the chronic injury is over time is just as bad as an acute injury of getting your head down and knocked right in the head, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep. Okay. It's going to sneak up on you if you just avoid it.
Yep, especially as we get older, right? We definitely feel that. But awesome. Well, Dr. Nolan, we really appreciate the entire series, from the feet to the knees to the hips to the core to the shoulders to the arms to the neck. We've given you a complete, encyclopedia of how your body works as athletes in general, as human beings, and especially as offensive linemen, we related to that. So hope you take these advice with the exercise we're given, the advice we're given. As we go into this football season, we're going to come out with a new series about some just more specific stuff of injuries that we see popping up. But we're going to continue going on. We really appreciate Dr. Nolan sharing his wisdom. I know he has a passion for it, like I do for coaching. He has a passion for getting guys back on the field. If you want more information about Dr. Nolan and Midwest Movement, it's midwestmovement.com, midwestmovementelkhorn.com.
Yep.
And they're located out there by Frank's Meats in Elkhorn. Of course, he takes guys from anywhere. And I tell you what, I've had sent guys to him. I know guys that have gone to him, and he's kind of like a witch doctor, right? They come in there and they got like a quad issue, and he adjusts his hip and spine and neck, and all of a sudden they're back out there playing football, baseball, basketball, whatever. So great track record, great job of what they're doing over there. Lastly, reminder, if you are watching this on YouTube, click the subscribe button down there to subscribe to our channel. The more subscribers we get, the more our message gets out there to make great offensive linemen. And if you're watching this on social media, the retweets, the likes, the comments, all those kind of things, share us to your story, whatever it is. And then, of course, if you're listening to this as a podcast on your podcast app, subscribe so that every time that we put new great information out there. So, Dr. Nolan, once again, thank you so much for everything you do for the Bober Academy and the young people and old people out there, in especially in athletics. We really appreciate your knowledge. So we will see you next time. Thanks for sharing everything with us, Dr. Nolan.
Yep. Thank you very much. Good luck, everybody.